Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. And thank you especially to the patrons who make this possible every single day for you with their support at patreon.com/SW7x7. Alright, so before we get into the conversation with Kelly Knox, it is Star Wars Day and I have a giveaway for you. Now, even if you've been living under a rock for the last number of years, you've heard of the pop vinyls from Funko, right? So what I have to give away is a Pop Comic Covers Boba Fett number 42. So it has the Boba Fett figure, which is approximately 4.35 inches tall, apparently, and he's inside a large case. It's clear on all sides except for the base and the bottom. That protective case is 7 inches wide, 10.75 inches high, and 3¼ inches deep. And the backdrop of it is the cover of issue 42 of the original Marvel Comics Star Wars back in the day. It's the one that features all of the bounty hunters on it. Well, I mean, not all of them. It has Boba Fett in the center, and it has Bosk on one side and Dengar on the other side. It's the 4th issue of the 6-issue adaptation that happened within the run of the original Star Wars run. So they have a replication of that cover as the backdrop for that pop vinyl figure. It's a $25 value. This particular giveaway is going to happen on TikTok, and if you're not on TikTok, that's okay. There's something else happening tomorrow that's going to happen on Instagram, so it's okay. To be eligible, you have to be a follower of Star Wars 7 by 7 on TikTok. The handle there is SW7x7, and you have to like the video where I am talking about this particular giveaway. You'll have until 11:59 p.m. Eastern on Revenge of the Sixth, May 6th, to qualify, and then on May 7th, I will choose a winner at random. And this is only open, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, for U.S. residents only. All right, so thank you for hanging with me about that. Now, let's set up the conversation with Kelly Knox. So I'm very happy that she's back on the show. Kelly Knox is an author and freelance entertainment writer in the Seattle area. She contributes to the official websites for pop culture powerhouses, including Star Wars, Star Trek, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and Crunchyroll. She also writes for entertainment reporting sites like IGN. She specializes in news and features as well as creating original craft projects for all ages. Chronicle Books published her Star Wars Dad Jokes book last month, and you know, Mother's Day is next week, and dad jokes aren't just for dads, they're for mothers too. So if you know a mother who would like Star Wars, then this might be the book that you're looking for. And I'm going to talk to Kelly all about it and how it came to be. So let's just dive right in. This is the first part of my conversation with Kelly Knox, the author of, among other things, Star Wars Dad Jokes. Kelly Knox, thank you so much for joining me on Star Wars 7 by 7. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a pleasure that you're back here. You were here last year for another project. And this year, of course, you're here for the Star Wars Dad Jokes book. I see you have that in the background as well.
Yes, I do.
So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I have read this from cover to cover and have enjoyed the living daylights out of it. It is so much fun. I got to start by just asking, like, you know, how you feel about dad jokes in general. Like, have you always been a fan of dad jokes or corny jokes, if you will?
I think I would say more a fan of puns. Like, I know I used to get in trouble with my writing. I would kind of tend to do too many puns and like headlines and section headers and stuff. And my editor would be like, you can dial that back a little bit. So I've always kind of liked that. But then I really started to like dad jokes when my daughter was in elementary school. Like after she learned how to read, I would Google a dad joke from the internet, write it down and put it in her lunchbox every day so she could read it at lunch to her friends. And so I really got like a good feel for dad jokes. I don't know how I got the idea, but you know, I got a good idea of how dad jokes work and which ones were funny and which ones she liked. And so I think that's mostly where my like inspiration originally came from for dad jokes, was reading through all those.
Do you have are you walking around with a formula in your head for like, I know this kind of setup and this kind of payoff works? Or because puns definitely play a big role in some of the ones you've done, and you have an affinity for that for sure.
Oh, thanks. There is some things I've noticed just from trying. The nice thing about Twitter is you can keep trying so many different things and actually get, you know, like responses and stuff to see what works. So I've kind of gotten like an idea of some of those things, but yeah, the wording it has to be just right. And thankfully I had great editors at Chronicle Books and Lucasfilm who helped me kind of tweak some jokes that weren't quite right. So that was a big help for writing the book. But otherwise, yeah, you kind of it's hit or miss. Sometimes they're so bad they're good, and sometimes they're just bad, and you kind of know.
Well, you were trying them out on Twitter, as you mentioned, and I think
Yeah.
that's when I first particularly noticed and saw those, and I was like, oh, this is just fantastic. And we even talked about it briefly the last time you were on. But like, did you? I feel like this is a chicken or the egg question in a way. Like, did you start doing Star Wars related ones with the hope that maybe somebody would go, hey, Kelly, this is Chronicle Books. Like, this is great. We should, create a whole thing about it. Or, like, can you tell me about how the project came about?
Yeah, no, it was not at all. It was basically a way because I started during lockdown, March 2020. I told my first Star Wars joke on Twitter. I mean, it only got like 50 likes or something. Like it wasn't like a huge hit. It was just something
Hmm.
that I wanted to do to brighten up everybody's timeline because we were all doom scrolling and there was really just bad news online. So I was like, I'm gonna add something stupid just, to hopefully give somebody a smile.
Hmm.
And then I decided to do it once a day, you know, to brighten other people's day, sure, but also to give me something to do and focus on. So
Hmm.
that was like the actual the start of it. I had zero dreams or hopes or ideas of it ever going beyond that. So that it just kind of happened as time went on. I think I made it like a year and a half of doing it daily, and then just kind of every few days after that I would tell a joke online. But
Hmm.
eventually, enough nice people have said this should be a book, this should be a book, that one day Lucasfilm said, yeah, this should be a book, and then they got me in touch, which is great and unexpected, and they got me in touch with the editor at Chronicle, and I did sort of like an informal pitch, and it went from there.
That's fantastic. So you probably had at least, I think, doing the math on what you were saying, like 500 or so, possibly as many as or more. And I mean, that must have been tough because there's about, maybe 125 or so in here.
Yeah.
Like, how was the whittling down process?
It was so I had a spreadsheet that I saved of the ones that I felt like worked really, but more than some others. Like not every joke made it into my spreadsheet, and I kept that because I didn't want to repeat a joke, which is super nerdy. But it ended up helping because that was my informal pitch. Was I sent the spreadsheet, and so that gave the editor an idea of what I was going for, and we used some of them. I would say maybe 10-15% are old jokes in the book. Old jokes if you follow me on Twitter.
Hmm.
Otherwise they're all new jokes. So that's why it wasn't really whittling down. They
Oh,
were just like, brand new ones that I worked with, like I said, with my editor and Lucasfilm to kind of to get just right. So
wow, that's fascinating. A whole huge new crop of them. So
yes.
did that seem like particularly challenging or daunting when you find out, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to write a whole new crop of them?
I was a little worried, and I was very glad I had that spreadsheet so I could go back and say, "Did I do this already?" Which I had once or twice. But yeah, it was hard. I probably the hardest thing I've written so far.
Oh my goodness. And I totally get it about the spreadsheet thing. When I did an unofficial trivia book, I was using a spreadsheet to track all
Yep.
the trivia questions I had done and categorizing and all that stuff. So yeah, spreadsheets for writing, like who would have thought? And
I
yet it's
know. That's so helpful. Yeah, I
oh
put
yeah.
categories and later, like before even the book was an idea, I would sort by category to see what I told jokes about. And it was like Admiral Akbar was number one and Anakin Skywalker was number two. And I was like, why do I pick on these guys so much?
Why do you pick on
I
them so much?
don't,
Like, are
well,
they? I mean, Akbar seems like he
he's
kind
so
of lends
easy.
himself to it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Hmm.
great. I love him. And he just lends himself well to all sorts of like fish and ocean puns. And Anakin, maybe it's because his story is just so tragic that those jokes just made such a bigger impact. I don't know. But those two, and I don't think actually many Anakin jokes made it into the book. There are quite a few Admiral Akbar jokes still.
Hmm. So do you find that it's easier? and I'm thinking about another project where you know, sort of broke things down, the things that you were talking about in terms of like characters and planets and vehicles and whatnot. Do you find that like certain categories were easier to, you know, to compose jokes for and some were tougher?
Characters and planets are usually pretty, I wouldn't say easy, are good sources of inspiration because their names are so unique in Star Wars and they lend themselves well to puns. Characters in particular, like we were saying, Admiral Akbar is kind of a fish, so that kind of makes it a good angle to come at. I recently the pirate captain in Mandalorian that looks like he's seaweed. He was pretty easy to make jokes about because he's so unique and hilarious on his own. He's not in the book, but he was like another source of inspiration for a while. So yeah, mostly characters, some planets, but you know, anything with a good Star Wars name, I felt like I could find some inspiration there.
All right, we're going to pause there, and then I'll share the rest of the interview with you on tomorrow's episode. So yeah, that's going to do it for today. If you enjoy the show, please consider letting other people know that it exists for them, that this Daily Dose of Joy exists for them. So you can do that by leaving ratings and reviews, by hitting like and subscribe and follow and join to train the algorithms, and just tell people that you know. Even if you see them out on the street, that would be great. And you can even help support the creation and production of this independent daily dose of Star Wars joy at patreon.com/SW7X7. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.